One of the biggest questions overweight men ask when they're trying to lose fat and become the better man they know they can be is this: should I do keto or should I just go full bore carnivore? And honestly, after losing over 100 pounds of fat and water and experimenting with both over the last 8 years, I think most men are asking the wrong questions. Because the real issue isn't which diet is more hardcore, it's understanding what problems you're actually trying to solve for are. Okay. See, for some men, carnivore can be an incredibly powerful elimination tool that helps instill food discipline. For others, keto may be easier to stay with long term while dramatically improving their health. Both improve their health. Okay. And to be honest with you, after several years of doing both at different times, I think there's room for both approaches depending on each man's individual needs. Now, before we go any further, let's simplify the difference between keto and carnivore, because online these two approaches constantly get compared against each other. Both approaches are very low carb. Keto keeps carbohydrate intake low enough for the body to rely much more heavily on fat and ketones for fuel, typically below 50 grams of carbohydrates a day. Carnivore goes even further by removing virtually all plant foods entirely, and focus almost completely on animal-based foods. Both approaches can improve metabolic health. Both can help with fat loss, and both remove a tremendous amount of processed garbage from the modern diet. But keto still allows certain plant foods that fit within the ketogenic framework, okay? Things like strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, broccoli, asparagus, cauliflower, cabbage, green leaf salads, avocados, things like that. It even allows certain nuts. Carnivore, on the other hand, removes almost all plant foods entirely. And I think that's where the real difference begins. Keto is much more flexible in food selection, okay? Carnivore is usually much more structured, maintains a greater level of simplification. And depending on your personality, your health situation, and your goals, that can matter a ton. Why might some men benefit from carnivore over keto? One thing I want to make clear in this video is I'm neither completely for nor completely against carnivore as an absolute, okay? I think carnivore personally can be an extremely useful tool when applied strategically and intentionally. This is based on my own personal experience. In fact, I still cycle into carnivore phases several weeks out of the year. Sometimes it's after the holidays. Sometimes it's a discipline reset. Sometimes it's simply because, life becomes easier when food choices become extremely simple. And honestly, some men temporarily do better with stricter guidelines, especially men who struggle with moderation and overindulgence. For some people, carnivore removes almost all decision fatigue. What are we going to have tonight? Well, I don't know. Another reason some people experiment with carnivore is an elimination. Some people report improvements in autoimmune symptoms, digestive issues, inflammation issues, or food sensitivities when they temporarily remove all plant foods. And while I'm not saying carnivore is the answer for everybody, I do think there can be value in temporarily eliminating plant foods that you suspect may be causing adverse reactions or inflammation issues for you personally. In fact, that's something I experienced myself. Even after losing over 100 pounds with keto, I still occasionally struggled with gout flare-ups. And let me tell you something. There is absolutely no such thing as a minor gout flare-up. Anybody who's ever had gout knows exactly what I mean. At one point, after coming off a carnivore phase, it was one of the first meals I ate was a steak with bacon-wrapped asparagus. And within about 24 hours, I had a brutal gout flare-up. Now, at first, I didn't automatically blame the asparagus. Later on that month, I experimented with it again. And over time, I realized there was a very high likelihood I was going to trigger gout symptoms if I ate a normal serving of asparagus. Broccoli, interestingly enough, also seemed to aggravate things if I ate too much of it too often. Now, that doesn't mean those foods are bad for everybody. It means I learned something very important about my body. And honestly, that was one of the biggest benefits carnivore ever, ever gave me. See, sometimes the value of carnivore isn't staying carnivore forever. Sometimes the value is learning which foods your body can actually tolerate well. With that said, with all of that said, keto is still what changed my life. Keto is what helped me lose over 100 pounds of fat and water. So for me, keto isn't theoretical anymore. For me, keto, it's personal. And over time, I realized that while I personally benefit from occasional carnivore phases, I don't currently feel the need to stay strict carnivore year round. I don't currently have any autoimmune issues severe enough that I personally feel the need to permanently eliminate every plant food from my diet. And honestly, I still enjoy a little bit of flexibility in my nutrition. I deeply enjoy blueberries and strawberries and even the occasional raspberries, and I mix them in with Greek yogurt. I do enjoy certain vegetables, including broccoli, although I have to be careful with that one. And because I still strength train regularly, 3 to 5 days a week, I do feel like having some flexibility works well for my energy, my recovery, and my training overall. Now, another major factor for me personally is simply it's real life. My wife, Corey, and I share responsibilities around meals and around the kitchen. And I think a lot of men forget that nutrition doesn't happen in a vacuum. Part of improving your personal health is building a nutritional lifestyle that works with your work schedule, your marriage, your family life, your social life, and your own personal responsibilities. And for me personally, keto fits that life extremely well long term. I've been going on it now almost 8 years. Now, if you're watching this and wondering which one you should experiment with first, here's my opinion. If you suspect food sensitivities, if you struggle badly with cravings or binge eating, if you need very clear nutritional guidelines, or if you simply want a temporary elimination reset, carnivore may absolutely be worth experimenting with. Highly recommend do it, as long as you know what you're doing. And personally, I think if somebody is going to seriously experiment with carnivore, they should probably commit to at least around 60 days before making any conclusions, especially if they're trying to identify food sensitivities or inflammatory triggers. But if you're somebody who doesn't necessarily want to jump headfirst into a stricter carnivore lifestyle, keto may actually be a much easier transition, especially if you have a family, if you have shared meals, you do a lot of social events, or if you simply tolerate certain plant foods very well. See, keto may also allow you to improve your metabolic health and lose significant fat while slowly learning which foods truly work well for your body. And honestly, I think one of the biggest mistakes men make is believing they have to become some sort of internet nutrition extremist overnight in order to reclaim their health. Gentlemen, you don't. Personally, I view keto and carnivore as tools that can solve different problems for different men. Most tradesmen have tools they use every single day. And then they've got a few specialty tools that only come out when a very specific job needs to get done. For me, keto became that everyday tool. Carnivore, for me, has become that specialty tool. It's a powerful reset and elimination tool that I still use strategically throughout the year. And honestly, I think there's value in understanding both approaches. Gentlemen, let me know down in the comments. Do you think you're more keto leaning or more carnivore leaning? Have you experimented with both? Is this your first time experimenting with either one? I'm genuinely curious to hear what has worked best for you and why. And the one thing, gentlemen, you need to remember, you are trying to reclaim your health so as men, we can become the better men our family deserves. Okay? God bless, and I'll see you in the next video.